week 13 of the fantasy football season, and here's a few tight ends I would drop this week. The first guy, Dan Arnold of the Jacksonville Jaguar. So Arnold, he was on a good roll here with this Jacksonville Jaguar team after they acquired him from the Carolina Panthers very early in the season this year here. But Arnold now, he could be out for the season with the injury. He's already put on IR with the MCL sprain, and he's out 4 to 6 weeks. In my opinion, there's no rush for Jacksonville to bring him back. They're going nowhere. They're one of the worst teams in pro football this season. But Arnold, he definitely produced with a lot of double-digit fantasy games this year here for a tight end who was really not on the radar at all coming into the season. But right now, with the injury and the lack of production over the last 2 weeks, there's no reason to stash him on your IR list and wait around for him. And right here, Dan Arnold's an easy drop this week. The next tight end I would drop this week's Tyler Conklin of the Minnesota Vikings. So Conklin, I was big on him for a few weeks here, but now he's disappeared over the last couple games. In week 12 at the 9, his 2 catches, 25 yards only in that ball game. And then week 11 versus Green Bay, 3 catches, 35 yards. And week 10 at the Chargers, a fluky ball game, 3 catches, 11 yards, with 2 of those touchdowns out of the 3 grabs. So right here, I know he's in a great offense over there in Minnesota, but obviously Adam Thielen, Jefferson, Dalvin Cook, if he's still going to be playing, or Alexander Madison are going to be the options over Conklin here. I know Conklin's a good target in the red zone, but he's just too inconsistent, in my opinion, to have on your fantasy roster. And right now, with the lack of performances over the last few weeks here, he's a tight end I would get away from this week and drop. So if he does pick things up and get him going again, yeah, he'll be a recommended add on the waiver wire. But this week here, he's a tight end I would get away from is Conklin and drop him. Plus in week 13, he's got a mediocre matchup at Detroit. But right here, I just can't trust him. And the third and final tight end I would drop, Evan Ingram of the New York Football Giants. So Evan Ingram, he had a couple breakout games in the middle weeks of the season, but in a slam dunk matchup in week 12 versus the Philadelphia Eagles, he just didn't get the job done in that one, where the Eagles give up the most fantasy points to tight ends on the season. So in that game, 3 catches, 37 yards. And the last couple weeks here now, he's been a bust as Ingram. Week 11 at Tampa, 2 catches, 12 yards. After coming off that hot streak where he had 3 games in a row, week 7, week 8, and week 9 with double-digit fantasy points. But right here, this offense isn't in sync. We know they got rid of Jason Garrett early in week 12. But right now, they just can't get the job done versus Philly. They didn't do a great job. They only put up 13 points in that ball game, and they're lucky they didn't lose it. I know they got a good matchup in Miami in week 13, but Evan Ingram, the last few seasons, has just been a guy that hasn't contributed and has been a bust for fantasy football. So that's a few tight ends I would drop here for week 13 of the fantasy football season.